Hey folks, welcome back. We're going to be diving in with a few more games in a moment, but a quick clarification. You've probably realized as you just saw an interview there with Alexandru, but our co-casters over on the floor did miscall the winner of that last game. It wasn't Franklin. Unfortunately for him, it was Alexandru, who is going to be moving into the quarterfinals. Just to clear that up for you.
Yes. So now we're headed into the top 8. And let's go ahead and take a look at brackets and see where we're standing now. We have Steel Sapphire and Steel Amber facing off with Ryan and Zan in the quarterfinals. That'll be a fun matchup to see for sure. In the next bracket, we have Matthew Wright and Hamza Khan. This is one of the only two Amethyst Ruby that have made it to quarterfinals, facing off with a Ruby Sapphire. Also bracket, we have another Ruby Sapphire with facing off with the Emerald Steel, Matthew versus Joshua. And then in our final bracket, the Cinderella bracket, which we've been following all that Emerald Steel action going into this quarterfinal with Alexandru, who we just saw win the last game on his Emerald Steel deck, facing off with Alberto Garcia running Amethyst Ruby. So that's the match we're getting ready to take a look at now. Jonti, what do you think we're going to see here with this matchup?
It's an interesting one, yeah. There's a lot of card draw in Amethyst, a lot of discard in Emerald, so they're going to be pit against each other to see who can come out on top. It's going to be exciting. I've really enjoyed watching Alexandru play today, so it'd be really great to see once again, not in a mirror. He's had 2 mirrors back to back now, so
I am sure he's tired.
The change.
Yes, tired of looking at Emerald Steel.
and yeah, like you say, he's going to be playing against a Ruby Amethyst, one of only 2 now in the top 8. Was definitely the most seen deck going into the top 64. Just a very consistent deck, has been since way back at the start of the game almost. And it's going to be interesting to see whether or not either of those can break through and make it into the final run.
Yes, well, congratulations again to everyone who made it to quarterfinals. Let's go ahead and dive in now and see what Alexandru and Alberto have for us with this match.
All right, so it looks like we've altered our hands and we're ready to go. We have Alexandru on the left playing Emerald Steel, Alberto on the right with Ruby Amethyst. We've seen their decks now both on screen already today, and they're both running pretty solid versions of their respective decks. The Ruby Amethyst is a pretty standard build. The Emerald Steel one does have a few interesting pieces, building more into the Floodborn tech of Bucky. So we'll hopefully see him come down on turn 2. That's what Alexandru would like to see.
Yeah, and turn 1 here, what do you think both players are hoping to get out on first turn?
So Albert's got a few options really, and he's running Rafiki's, he's running the Minnie Mouse. There we go, we see that one come down. Just a solid 1-drop here really. It doesn't trade well with any of the 2/2s that your opponent could be playing. I don't think we're seeing Teeth and Ambitions here, which is also a nice target. But yeah, we just see that one there. Like I said, can quest comfortably here against the Robin Hood on turn 2, which is most likely what we'll see happen.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's no Teeth and Ambitions. The only 2 song cards that Alberto has in his deck are Friends on the Other Side and some Be Prepared. So hopefully Alexandru will be prepared to face that as the game goes on.
I mean, arguably the 2 best songs in the game. Well, I'm sure Steel players will probably have me say otherwise, but card draw and total board wipe is pretty solid in my opinion. So
absolutely.
Yeah, we're just gonna make sure we're up to date on lore counts. Looks like that's perfectly fine. And then Alberto is going to be deciding on his turn to play. Really going to be one to be following up the mini there with some more board presence. And we do see the Pinocchio come down. It is going to exert that Robin Hood, but there's no real reason to. The mini, I can't imagine the mini going in to do 1 damage on him, but it is an option.
Yep, and we're getting a token here for something. Is that for ink?
Yeah,
can't quite see what it says.
It says already.
Inked this turn.
Already inked for turn. Okay, so that's a new addition. There might be some slight issues there with people trying to double ink. And there we go. We see the Minnie Mouse questing.
Yeah, I think that it'll be interesting here. You know, these are 2 very strong decks, probably two of the strongest decks in the game right now.
Mhm.
And it's really going to maybe come down to who has the right answers at the right time.
Yeah, definitely. It's a good matchup, this, I think, because they're both very different decks. I think this is a good show of what the game is able to really do. There's two very different build styles here, two very different play styles. We do see the Bucky come down for Alexandru here. That is a warded character that if it sees you play a Floodborn, your opponent just have to discard a card. So yeah, that's a good turn two for Alexandru. Exactly what you want to see. And now he's going to be looking for his Floodborn targets, his larger Robin Hoods, and everything else he can get down.
Yeah, and he didn't quest there with Robin Hood, and my guess is knowing that there could maybe be a fox coming with Rush on Albert's next turn. He didn't want to leave that open to a challenge because he wants to save that to be able to shift into the bigger Robin Hood.
Exactly, yeah. If the bigger Robin Hood is there in your hands, you're going to want to keep it as safe as possible. Pinocchio is perfectly fine to quest here. Does get the fox
There's
play.
the fox. Yep.
Yeah, so it was the right line for Alex to hold back there, but even still, Fox just on the board, a good 4/3 body that's able to challenge well. No real issues playing it there without an instant target. It's just going to act as a bit of a deterrent, really, for whatever Alex wants to do. He doesn't have the Robin Hood, but he's just setting up for a huge turn 4 with Prince John. Prince John there says whenever your opponent discards a card, you can draw one. So not only is the Floodborn targets that come down now going to be having Albert discard, Alex is going to be filling his hand back up from the Prince John, seeing the discard from the Bucky there. We see two castles go down into the Inkwell, one on turn 3, one on turn 4. We do see another Pinocchio.
As we've seen in some games yesterday, and that talkative puppet does so much good here in this deck, and getting rid of that shift target, I think, is really, really in Alberto's favor.
Yeah, it was, to be honest with you, it was an interesting play seeing that first Pinocchio come down so early without a real target for it. It makes sense now if the other one was there, so that could be played there with the Fox. Yeah, that was a really great move. So we see a Morph go into the Inkwell, and we see Ursula, Deceiver of All, which is a pretty good backup turn, having not be able to play down the Robin Hood that I'm sure Alex has in his hand.
Yeah, it'll be interesting if we could see Alexander's hand to see what songs he might be having waiting to sing there. We'd have a rabbit come down for some card draw.
And then a snake is inked. Perfectly great turn 4 there, really. And here, Alberto's interestingly playing a bit more of an aggro build here, just sort of really getting out there and getting those lore totals as high as possible. Whilst Alex is playing a discard heavy build, you do have to respect the fact that Steel has a lot of big cards that can come down in the later game. There's the Robin Hood, Champion of Sherwood, Tinkerbell, Giant Fairy, the Cinderella, Stout-Hearted.
Yes.
All of these smaller sort of tempo play cards are going to have trouble dealing with. So it's probably a fair idea here for Alberto to go a little bit heavier into the lore gain earlier on.
Yeah, and he just sang Let the Storm Rage On, I believe, on the Fox and the Talkative Puppet. I'm sure he didn't want to have that bounced back into Alberto's hand and come down again.
Yeah.
And here we have some discard coming with Hypnotize. That's the first time we've seen him play that.
Yeah, Hypnotize is an interesting one. It's a 3-costed action. It's not singable. I think if it was singable by Ursula Deceiver All, it would be pretty broken because not only does it have your opponent discard a card, it lets you draw as well. So you'll draw a card from that. And you did see Alexandru draw 2 there. That was because that was 1 from the Hypnotize, and then Bucky, and then Prince John, seeing Alberta discard the crab, allowed the second card draw there. So really great play with the Prince John on the board.
I'm not
chill going the Inkwell.
Yeah, that crab, he's probably sad to see that go because with knowing that there's some of those bigger steel characters that might be coming, like Robin Hood, Cinderella, the ones you've mentioned, that crab could come in very handy. So it's just unfortunate to see that go in the discard.
Yeah, we do see a Mary, though, which is a great answer to Ursula. Coming down on 5, and again we're going to keep that lore gain going with Rabbit and Minnie both questing here. So yeah, again, there's not really that much threat. The Prince John, Bucky, now Morph as well. These are not challenging characters. So Alberto's looking at the board and just thinking, do you know what? I can get away with these getting turned sideways here and just keep the lore gain, keep that pressure on for Alex as he moves into the mid game.
Here we see Shift Beast.
We see a Shift Beast. Wow, that's huge. So Shift Beast comes down. Doesn't necessarily want to turn sideways straight away, but having it on the board for the card draw is fantastic. But also, more importantly, Bucky sees Shift Beast be a Floodborn there and has that Be Prepared just pulled out of Albert's hand. So Alex is probably a little safer now to start going a little bit wider and really start to ramp up and try and catch up on board presence with the lore.
Yeah, that Beast Tragic Hero has definitely for Steel players been a favorite. I don't think there's a Steel deck that was being played, that doesn't have Beast in it. It's so good with that card draw.
Absolutely, yeah. Really interesting card because it's not necessarily one that you need to shift, even though it is Floodborn, just because for the most part, you're happy for it to sit there ready and give you the card draw. But it's still a line of play where you can just pay less ink to get it down. Here we see it come down with a Prince John, and now Ruby Amethyst is doing Ruby Amethyst things. We're seeing rabbits and all sorts of bounces, and Albert's going to be digging here for an answer. Maybe a Be Prepared, or maybe just we're going to really push the lore gain aspects of the deck here instead. So maybe looking for goats. Queen castles. Honestly, I know we inked them before. Sometimes you just have to find the ink, but a Queen's Castle is probably going to do a bit of good here as well.
Yeah, he is running 4 of those in his deck. So we've seen 2 into the Inkwell, but he does have a few more in his deck he could grab. And he also is running a couple Pinocchios, which would be nice to help really push his lore if he could find one.
The Pinocchios with the 3 lore on them?
No. Excuse me. I was looking at his deck list. Wrong Pinocchio.
The one that exerts that we've seen.
Yes,
already put the work in here. Yeah.
I do like that other Pinocchio though.
Yeah, again, very different build there. You're really leaning into the heavy aggro with that one. So we see a big Tink come down. I don't think there's anything to discard from. Oh no, Bucky's gone. Sorry, but
he's still there.
I always get mixed up between Bucky and Morph. Big Bucky sees Big Tink, but and we're discarding a spellbook from it. So it's a disappointing discard for Albert there. That's going to be another sort of key piece in his lore race. Big Tink not taking anything off the board here, but just all those little incremental pieces of damage doing a lot of work. Yeah.
And he really, Alexandru has that draw engine going now with 2 Prince Johns on the board. So now he'll get double draw off of each card that Alberto discards.
Yeah, it's kind of huge. One of them is Singing there. Let's Storm Range on to finish off the Maui. Again, more card draw for Alexandru, just having all the answers in his hand here.
Yeah, and does Alberto have any cards in his hand right now? It looks like he may have one.
Yeah.
Yeah, which Amethyst is so good for card draw, but he hasn't been able to, even with that rabbit there, keep his hand up.
Yeah, that's the power of discard. Alexandru, really interesting here. Actually challenging with the Beast, something you just don't see very often, but with the card draw off of those Prince Johns, just a really good full hand. At this point, the control of the board here with the Beast is actually more important than the extra card draw from him. So it's a really interesting play.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so interesting with Lorcana. I found, right now we have Alberto sitting at 10 lore and Alexandru hasn't quested at all. He's not on the board. But games like this can shift dramatically so quickly. And we've seen that happen again and again. And it's one of the interesting things for me that I've seen happen in Lorcana. Somebody could get up to 10 or 15 or 18 and still walk away without a win because of how the board state can change so quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. And Alex is going to be looking at this here and thinking that spent the game just dealing with all of the issues, but at some point we'll have to start getting some lore on the board because that's what wins games. At the end of the day, you can control the board as much as you like. At some point, you do have to just start turning those cards sideways. But he's done an absolutely great job of dealing with the board here. Rabbit going into Beast just for the card draw there, I think, if nothing else.
Sure. And Beast has 5 willpower, so he's sitting with 3 damage right now. So
yeah. Okay. And then he gets the start of his turn, he'll get +4 strength because of that damage on him as well.
Yeah, the Floodboard cards like Beast Tragic Hero, I love how they take the characters that we know and love and change them, to something different. Like the Cinderella Stout-Hearted Cinderella going from a princess to a knight, and Beast going from Angry Beast to this tragic hero. I just love that part of the game.
It's a really good place they can go into, and it'll just run and run and run. There'll be a lot of different things they can do over the years. We see a castle come down there. I think it's a good turn for Albert.
Yeah.
You need to just keep putting that law pressure on. The law gain he's got here is definitely the big advantage he has. So a castle, unfortunately, doesn't stick around because of that bonus strength off the beast. So yeah, but still having to just place who's outs. But yeah, here Tinkerbell is able to clean up, taking out the snake, and then finishing off the Cusco with the 2. So yeah, really really difficult play here for Albert. I'm not sure what the comeback is here. Maybe a Be Prepared can get him back into the game. But that law lead is pretty much all he's got going for. At this point, we're even safe exerting the Bucky to start getting some quest on the board.
Yes, and Alberto does have 7 ink, it looks like, in his inkwell. So if he happens to top deck a Be Prepared, he could absolutely play it, which, he's got to be hoping for something good here.
Yeah.
And it is, that's not bad, Madame Medusa.
It's a Medusa, takes out the Ursula. So yeah, that's fine. There was there was a few of the cards you'd probably rather see there, but it's still keeping him in it. Yeah, but I think Alexandru's going to start to be able to move away with this one now. Yeah, we're just able to have the answers. This is what Steel does best. It just has the removal and the big bodies, and now we're going to quest them. We should see the law jump right up now to pretty much match where Albert is from that early leave. Yeah, it does actually spot on. It's for 10 law there, and then we're just going to keep putting bodies on the board. The Prince Johns,
another Prince John,
less working. Yeah, a little less working with Albert being in top deck mode. But it's still just a body that quests for 2. I think we sometimes forget that Prince John just quests for 2. It's still a great quester. So we've got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's a lot of lore on the board right now.
7, 8, 9. You're right. Yeah, 9 lore on the board, and
just has the answer every time.
And that 9. Was a nice, beautiful, enchanted. And then along came Zeus that he just played. That was. And does Albert have anything? He does not.
Yeah, no. Looking for the Be Prep because it's the only thing that's really going to give him any chance to keep him. But yeah, I think it's going to be a shuffle up and go to game 2. So Alexandru just showing the power of discard there for a good chunk of that game. Top deck happening from the other side of the table. So yeah, that was pretty solid game 1 there, I think.
Absolutely, very solid. Yeah, I both. Both players did well, but Alexandru really was able to pull what he needed when he needed it and really take that game home.
Yeah, can't draw off the Prince Johns there, really just keeping his hand full of answers all the way through. It was really good. We'll be right back after this short break.
Welcome back, everyone. We are getting ready to see game 2 with Alberto and Alexandru. It's been a great matchup. That game 1 was a lot of fun. And Jonti, are you ready to see game 2? What can happen?
Absolutely. Yes.
All right. Let's take a look. So hopefully Alberto can get some of those answers that he needs with that Ruby Amethyst. We know that it's such a strong deck, and but Emerald Steel was just kind of steamrolling over everything that he brought out.
Yeah, just had the answers. Albert can take a win here. I think that the Ruby Amethyst is just the most consistent deck in the format. It doesn't necessarily have any incredible matchups where it just really runs over things, but it doesn't really have any terrible matchups. It has all of the it just has all of the sort of solid answers throughout. Just got to see them when you need them, really. Obviously, the main issues for Albert here is knowing that the discard is coming. So you may well see like Be Prepared, got rid of earlier in the game, mulliganed away definitely, but even used got rid of as much as possible, because it just isn't going to survive in your hand until you need it. Hopefully he'll be able to find it when he needs it, if he needs it, and the same with things like Friends as well.
Sure. Yeah. So Albert, he's not playing a very aggressive deck, but it feels like that might be some of the strategy to get lore early against an Emerald Steel that can just really get going late game.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, a lot of the Emerald Steel's answers early game are the steel removal spells. So it doesn't really matter whether your characters are exerted or not as far as they're concerned. So you may as well just start getting that early value out of them. And exactly what we see here, Rafiki, a challenger, a card that really is there in the game to deal with board presence, but here it just becomes a quester, because early on Albert knows that early lead is going to really pay off.
Yeah, and Alexandru didn't have anything on turn 1, but now he's playing an Ursula and could take a look. And Albert does not have any songs, but we do see 2 Queen's Castles, a fox, and a Minnie Mouse.
Yep. So it's good to know for Alex. I wonder if we'll maybe keep hold of those castles this time. We saw a few of them get inked in the last game, but I do actually think they're quite a good answer here. Alex kind of needs the Along Came Zeus for them. No, we're still deciding to ink one of them. It's still a perfectly fine play. And then we get a mini down, which is going to be a really great quester. Again, is we're going to be requiring a steel removal answer here.
Yeah, those locations can do a lot of work. And like you said, really, you have Along Came Zeus. And then until he can get some bigger bodies on the board on Alexandru's side, there's those Queen's Castles would do a lot of good. They would probably last a couple turns at least and get
I feel
some more.
so. I feel like it, yeah. We ink a Robin Hood for an Ursula Deceiver of All, and we're going to cut away just for a moment. There was a judge call at that point in the game. Nothing major. We were just players were just not sure of where they were in the turn of play, so they just had to get a judge to come over, check out the table, figure out what's going on, and then they're going to move on with the play.
Yep. And they're going to be right back along once they figure out where they are in the turn, and we'll see the rest of the game. So we'll jump back into it now.
So the Ursula Deceiver coming down there from Alexandru, and now I think it's back over to Albert.
And once again, I just have to point out the beautiful enchanted Ursula Deceiver of All that he's played here. One of the most beautiful enchanted arts, I think, of that Into the Inkland set, that Ursula is fantastic.
And that's the one with the joint art, I think, by John Lauren and Nicholas Cole.
And Nicholas Cole.
Yeah, I mean, both smash it in their own rights, but when they come together, they make some amazing stuff.
And we do see the Queen's Castle come down. I think that was a good move for Albert to bring that onto the board. So
I think so as well. It may well have just been that the other one needed to be inked the turn before, because that Minnie Mouse is going to put a lot of questing work in again. You see Albert here just kind of really keep the tempo up as far as questing goes. The Minnie Mouse and the Cusco, and there the castle down as well, with Alex not really having a great answer for it, unless we do see the Along Came Zeus.
Yeah, and if he could double sing Along Came Zeus, that would be...
luckily, you can't. Luckily, it's a 4-drop, so Ursula isn't able to.
Oh, that's right.
Although she is double singing Strength of a Raging Fire, I think.
Oh, he's inking Strength of a Raging Fire, and he's doing Let the Storm Rage on Rafiki and Cusco. So he will get to draw off of Cusco. Rafiki, he gained like 3 lore. I think he was out there for a few turns. So
absolutely got some work in there, and then Alex obviously draws 2 cards there with Let the Storm Rage on being played twice, and then we see a Jafar Dreadnought coming down as well.
And he's singing with his other Ursula, Sudden Chill. So Albert's going to have to discard, and we see Lady Tremaine.
All right, so we get 2 lore off the castle. So it's
I feel
managed
like
to
that was
survive
quite a
turn.
strong turn there for Alexandru.
Huge turn, yeah. Got a lot of work going on there. Was able to clear up 2 characters off the board, discarded a card from Albert, drew 2 cards himself, developed his own board state. Yeah, just did everything that Emerald Steel wants to do.
Yeah, and even though he's still sitting at 0 lore, as we've seen in previous games, he kind of tends to sit back there for a while and then just ramps up real quick.
We see a Fox being inked there for a Maui, which takes out that Ursula. Has enough singing from her right now. And then the mouse continues to quest there on her surfboard.
Yeah, Minnie is a great little card. She's just a 1/3, I believe, but she quests for 2, and being evasive, she can do a lot of questing. And character-wise, I don't think there's any evasive characters that Alexandru has, but of course he has all the damage songs that he could bring in to take care of Minnie Mouse.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely what he needs to see here is some sort of steel removal for her. There's a lot in there that stuff's going to be able to deal with. Strength of Raging Fire, as long as his board state is big enough. Along came Zeus also as well. So definitely answers, but Albert's just going to keep questing with her until Alex finds one.
Yeah. Minnie Mouse is also one of those cards that every time I play it, it just makes me smile. She's just so cute on her surfboard.
Yeah, I love how all the minis just seem to be living their best life in this game.
I think out of yes, all the mini characters, it's like if I was going to hang out with a Disney character in Lorcana for a day, I would absolutely choose Minnie Mouse. She's having the most fun.
Bucky there coming down and being the 3rd character, so that Strength of Raging Fire deals 3 to her, and then Jafar finishing off Maui there. So again, another good turn. Both players really playing at the height of their games here. I think they're both seeing the cards they need when they need them and playing into their outs. But yeah, we've sort of seen a replay of the game 1 here. Early lore lead for Albert, but then Alex just being able to start to take control of the game the longer it goes on.
I think the fact that he played that Queen's Castle, though, a couple turns ago was really smart, because even though Alexandru's been able to clear his board of characters, that's still gaining him lore every turn.
Yeah, exactly that. Yeah. Rabbit here to draw a card and then moved over to the castle.
One of my favorite moves.
The castle survives the turn, which I'm pretty sure it will do at this point. We're going to see a lot of card draw next turn.
Let's see, he's exerting 4. And along came Zeus is going to do 5 damage there and then take it out all the way with Ursula.
Yeah, that's the answer he needed for it at that point. So at this point, again, Alex just going to try and put some bit more stuff down on the board and hopefully bring the tempo back into his favor. Just a lone rabbit there for Albert. Yeah, but still cards in hand, which at this point in the game against a discard deck is pretty impressive.
Yep. So he has 5 ink, and he just exerted 4 to play another rabbit for a card draw. He hasn't inked this turn. We do see him put a mini into his inkwell.
Quest of the rabbit, keep that lower pressure on. Again, obviously, if the rabbit does get taken out by something, you're drawing a card as well, so you don't necessarily mind turning that sideways.
So with 6 ink, he does have I'm not sure what he has in hand, but Lady Tremaine and Madame Medusa are both in his deck. And I was gonna say he didn't have a good target for either, maybe the Bucky, but with Beast coming down now, that's
yeah, that's pretty big. The Tragic Hero coming down, and then obviously Bucky seeing that Tragic Hero to discard the Pinocchio. And now I think we're in no, we have 1 card in hand, I think, so we're not quite into top deck mode, but we will be after inking the mini for
and there's the Madame Medusa.
We'll get rid of the Beast,
yeah, that was the answer that Albert needed for sure there with that Beast. And he didn't even, I don't think Alexandru got even a single card draw off of Beast. So that's really fortunate for Albert, because that extra card draw from Beast is so advantageous.
Absolutely. It was a really great couple of turns from Albert. Managed to build up a decent board state here. Oh, we see a Beast Relentless, which I think is the first time seeing this. A fantastic card in Emerald. Beast Relentless says that you can ready him whenever another character takes damage. It can actually, any character can take damage. You can take it himself. It can be one of yours. It can be one of your opponents, and they can take damage through any different way. It doesn't matter, and he just gets to ready. And not only that, The real key thing for this one is that he can still quest once readying. A lot of the readying stuff in the game will say they can't quest for the rest of this turn. Beast doesn't say that. So there's definitely some really fun lines you can do with a lot of the steel removal spells and Beast, not only being able to clean up the board, but instead also now getting lore as well with the Beast readying.
Yes, we did see a little bit of bounce there. So he quested with Rabbit, bounced it back with Fox, and then replayed it. So we got to draw a couple cards there, which is good. And he's didn't quest with anything though before passing the turn over to Alexandru. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I think at this point he's going to have to start thinking about what that Beast is able to do. Obviously, if you're giving your opponent targets to damage, I mean, even that Ursula going into something and not banishing it, it's still going to have that Beast be ready and can very quickly get out of hand. Here we do see the beginning of that sort of combo happen. Beast is able to quest for 2, readies, and then let the Storm Rage on there, is drawing a card.
That's game. Yeah, but yeah. Albert had enough lore on board, so
yeah, I didn't have an answer for it, so that was great.
Great.
Yeah, it does mean we're going to go to game 3.
We are going to game 3, and it's really anyone's game. Both these decks and both these players, they're playing at such a high level, really piloting these decks very well, finding the answers, developing their board, and it's been so much fun to watch these players play these decks.
Yeah, it just goes to show you that you can go so many different ways with the game, so many different options for building. They're 2 very, very different decks, both with very different win conditions. It's really good to see.
Very different. Yeah, the Emerald Steel is fun. There's so much more interaction with the deck, with the discard and the drawing and all of that. And Ruby Amethyst is really just about controlling the board, questing, challenging, and that's kind of what we've seen each player kind of play these decks the way they were meant to be played. So
yeah, although I will say Albert seems to be playing a bit more of a sort of aggro style play, just because he knows that the longer the games go on.
Yeah, I think he's smart to do that. Yeah, because especially with all those steel songs, like you were saying with the last game, you want to quest because if you don't, that steel is going to come along and wipe your characters out.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to go into game 3 of this round. Let's see how it finishes up.
So best of luck to both Alexandru and Albert. It really is anybody's game. And it's going to be exciting to see what we got here. So it looks like they've already altered their opening hands. And Alexandru will lead us off. We got a fist bump going into the final game. Yes,
absolutely. Nice bit of camaraderie going into the final game of the 3 here.
Absolutely. The Lorcana community is just so fantastic. Everyone I've met online and at my LGS has been so wonderful. And I love to see things like that with folks in the community, just really supporting each other, even though we're competing. It is a Disney card game and there's so much camaraderie and support and encouragement among players, all the Illumineers, we're all here to have fun.
Absolutely. It's really great to see. So no turn 1 play from either player here, but we do see a bookie come down from Alex. And yeah, exactly what the deck wants to do. And we're going to hopefully start seeing the Floodborn targets for him soon. Yeah, there's going to be, you'll probably see a slightly slower pace of play here. This is going to be the game, the one that takes them into the next round. So every line is going to be looked at, every line of play is going to be thought about and considered, and that's absolutely fine. Sometimes it's worth just sort of taking a step back, slowing down, really looking at what your options are. So.
Yeah, I do see a spell book over there in Albert's hand, so it'll be interesting to see if he ends up playing that, because that's just some nice lore gain, and I don't think that Alexandru really has any answers for items in his deck.
No, obviously item removal is most prevalent in steel out of any other color, really, but yeah, it doesn't look like we're seeing any in Alex's deck. If there's Benjers, they haven't shown themselves yet. Albert might be realizing that and thinking it can come down a little bit and just start a lore game. That Sorcerer's Spellbook is usually there for the mirror match, honestly. It's a just way of, so like you say, just kind of keeping that lore gain high when your characters are constantly sort of trading into each other. But instead, we go for a Maleficent, drawing a card, just keeping that handful, very aware that there might be some discard stuff coming from Alex.
Yeah, I do see a sudden chill that he has inking, or is he singing it? He's inking it, it looks like. And he has a Strength of Raging Fire there, and he does have that Ursula out. So let's see.
So we're using the Sudden Chill to play a Robin Hood. We do have the shift target in hand, so that's setting up for next turn's play. And then Ursula is going to be doing a ton of damage across both of the characters there. That's really quite solid. Yeah, 3 damage to each, having that Robin Hood come down.
Yeah, so Strength or Raging Fire, again, it does damage equal to the amount of characters that you have in play. So it can be very strong.
Yeah, relatively safe to quest with Bucky here. Obviously, there's a lot of rush. Well, I said there's a lot of rush. There's Fox in Albert's deck, but Fox does need a target on the board to be able to bounce back. So while Albert has an empty board, it's fairly safe until you get to 5 and hit that Maui area. It's probably quite safe to quest here. We see a goat come down from Albert again, just going to try and keep that lore gain rolling against Alex.
Yeah. And that Ursula, I feel like this is one of the first games we've seen where Ursula has survived a couple turns, which is really dangerous. And if he gets more of those steel songs in hand, could cause a lot of trouble for Albert.
Absolutely. So we see the Robin Hood shift there. It's just going to start questing. Robin, again, we've said it all day. Toolbox card is able to quest, is able to challenge, just does everything it says on the tin. Just able to just play into lots of different play styles, do exactly what it needs to do depending on the board state. And here, just able to comfortably quest. We see, although we do see a really great trade there with Goat being bumped up by the Crab. So that's taking out, a big target there. Alex has put quite a bit of resources into that Robin Hood. Goat is gaining lore as he leaves as well. So yeah, it's a pretty solid trade there, I think, from Albert.
Yeah, I think not letting that Robin Hood sit around is a smart move. He is the champion of Sherwood, after all.
Sure is. We see a Prince John coming down. Again, we now have the Bucky and John online. So any Floodborn is going to have a card discarded by Albert and a card drawn from Alex. So a really great 2-card combo there.
Yeah. What do you think these players, we're at the quarterfinals. This is final 8, game 3. How do you think they're feeling nerves and just their mental state right now at this place in the tournament?
So this is the real key match moving into the final. Although if this is top 8, they've secured a Mickey Mouse Brave Little Tailor at this point, I believe.
That is true. Yes.
For me personally, that's the prize for these. Obviously, the higher you go up, the more packs you get, the extra, the full set of foils and enchanted, and there is a trophy for first as well. But really, if I was coming into this and really trying to make it all the way, I would be able to personally have a little bit of a sigh of relief once I guaranteed myself one of those Mickeys. But even still, it's one of the top tables of the day. You're on stream. You've got a 1,000 people watching, or however many it is. So the pressure is definitely going to be on, and obviously, different players react to that differently, right?
Sure, absolutely. And I know a lot of players, especially some of these players that are at this high level, have come from other games and probably have some experience playing in tournaments. And so I'm sure that experience really helps with things like nerves and all of that. So Absolutely. For newer players to tournaments, the more you play, the more you're out there, then the more comfortable you'll get in these situations.
Absolutely.
We got 6 ink over here on Albert's inkwell. So he is 1 ink away from being able to be prepared if he has it in hand. I don't think I've seen it in his hand yet.
No, it's just going to be...
Is that it? There it is.
It is definitely going to be an answer he's looking for at this point. Alex's board is starting to get a little bit away from him. So I think maybe a reset here is probably needed.
Yeah, he has it. He must have just drawn it. What do you think that's the right move here, to quest out with a rabbit and crab and wipe the board?
It may well be, yeah, because the Ursula being able to sing next turn is a lot of pressure, especially if that's a discard card. Prince John is going to refuel the hand again. If you quest with rabbit or crab, you're going to be giving Alex value with the Jafar trading into them. So I think there's something to be said about having a bit of a reset here, but maybe not. Maybe we'll see another line. Instead, we see a rabbit come down for another draw.
Sure.
Perhaps looking for a better inkable so that next turn we can be prepared. That may well be it as well. We see a Pinocchio is able to exert the Ursula. Crab is able to go in there. So that's a pretty nice challenge.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, maybe just seeing the line there and being able to keep board presence up whilst removing the bigger threats from Alex's board is some really good play.
Sure. Yeah. Keeping those characters in place so he can keep questing. And now that he was able to see that he could take Ursula off the board, maybe he feels like there's not as much of a threat there on the other side.
Absolutely. We see 6 here for a giant tink. Finishes off the crab there and takes out the Pinocchio and puts 1 on each of the rabbits. So yeah, pretty solid turn there. Not shifted. We rarely see the shift target for Tinkerbell now. It was something that was played a lot earlier in the earlier sets metas. But now a lot of the time you're just kind of happy putting her down on 6 as a good body. Then a lot of the time earlier on you would play the Tiny Tactician to get her out on 4. But the game as it's developed has moved a little slower for the most part, unless you're sort of up against a real aggro deck. So usually you're more than happy to have her come down on 6 actually.
And it looks like, Alex is not running those Tiny Tacticians in his deck. So you can play it on 6, or you could shift onto morph if you really wanted to.
Absolutely, yeah. If there was a morph down, it would have been a nice shift because it would have cleaned up those rabbits because she'd have been able to quest in and then, challenge in and then do the 2 damage to the other one. But even still, the Jafar able to take the 1 out and then draw a card is really quite good.
Oh, it looks like a Be Prepared might be coming here. He just quested, and there it is.
There it is. So we get a card draw off the rabbit for Albert, and then Alex gets a hard reset. Just in time, I think, there to be prepared for Albert.
I did see it looked like a Beast Relentless. And there it is in his hand. So it's something to watch out for.
Yeah.
Now, if he had a Tremaine Medusa wouldn't do it, I don't believe, but Tremaine would be very nice here.
I think he's going to windmill it down onto the board. There we go. Yeah.
There it is.
I'm not sure whether that was the top deck. I feel like it might have been the way it came down. But yeah, exactly. The response needed there.
She is one of my favorite ladies in chairs.
Yeah.
And along came Zeus.
Yeah. Back and forth, along came Zeus taking it out. We do have a couple to left over for a sudden chill. We get rid of the fox. So we got
these 2
empty
players. It's like a reset here.
Yeah, and just single-digit lore total. So you wouldn't think we were as late into the game as you would, other than looking at the ink. We see a castle come down and a Cusco, and enough to move the Cusco to the castle. Great turn from Albert. That's going to be a really good way to start getting back into this game with lore gain and most likely card draw as well, unless Alex finds another Along Came Zeus.
Yeah, if he had another Let the Storm Rage On, he's played a couple this game. I'm not sure how many he might have left, but he could, take out that Cusco if he wanted. But I'm sure he's wanting to get a body on the board so he can keep up with questing as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, these players, they're thinking hard, looking at what's out. Another Tinkerbell.
Yeah. Again, mostly just getting this down as a big body at this point, I feel. Does obviously take a little bit of damage into that Cusco, but we do see a card draw and 2 lore off the castle there. It just shows you what a great comeback card it is after a Be Prepared. I know we talked about this a little bit yesterday, but a lot of people saw locations and were like, oh, these are Be Prepared proof, and thought that we'd see against Be Prepared, but actually no, we don't. We see them in the same deck as Be Prepared here with the castle, just as a really great way to start to refuel your game after doing one. So a mini is a great line there as well, and a Rafiki just putting stuff down onto the board,
moving them both over.
I don't, and why not? Yeah, you've got the ink to do it. You may as well move stuff across there just for that card draw. I don't believe Alex is running Grab Your Swords, so it's not so awful going a little wider here with some smaller characters as far as Albert is concerned.
Yeah, that Tinkerbell over there is, he can't do anything now because he doesn't have anything exerted. So the Queen's Castle, would be the only thing that he could do some damage on.
Yeah, and along came Zeus, did find it, and was able to get rid of it. So that's kind of huge there. It stops the 2 lore game, but also it would have been 3 card draw off that. So absolutely was the right play. And, arguably the downside of the locations is that they don't crack back, so you are able to put some resources into getting rid of them, and it's usually a relatively fair trade. Obviously leaves that Tinkerbell open there. We're going to put Cusco into her, mostly because Cusco does draw you a card on Banish. So again, we're just digging through, seeing answers. This is really good. We can see some great play here. Rafiki goes in as well. I don't suppose he would like to put the mini into her. I think we're going to quest instead there. Yeah. But just putting that damage on her now, meaning next turn, that Rafiki then is threatening to finish her half. The Surfer there obviously being evasive, so Tinkerbell currently isn't able to go into her.
Yeah, I think a lot of players feel like, especially newer players, that if you're going to challenge a character, that you want to be able to take it out in one swoop. But here we see him just putting some damage on Tinkerbell, not taking her completely out. And like you said, so then next turn, if Tink decides to challenge into one of his characters or quests, then he can take her out. So there's a little bit of that forward thinking. That you don't have to do everything all at once.
We managed to find the third Along Came Zeus. That's the three of them now played. That's Alex is running 3 copies of that, and we've managed to see all of them in this game. So really is the king of the top decks here today, just absolutely finding those answers as he needs them. All right. So we have a quest from Rafiki, which suggests another Be Prepared, and it is. Yeah.
And it is. Yep.
Not quite as much value out of that one as he got from the first one, I think, but still absolutely fair to do there at that point, getting rid of that Tinkerbell and the Prince John. Ursula takes a look at no songs, but we see a rabbit.
Madame Medusa, I think.
There we go. You're a bit quicker than me.
Yeah.
And
Madame Medusa.
Yeah, I was going to say, we'll see that Medusa come down, take out the Ursula. And yeah, this is going to be a real back and forth game. Albert just creeping ahead with the law now at this point, but there's going to be a lot of back and forth now. Albert just able to keep hold of some cards in hand.
Sing
Friends with Medusa is kind of huge at this point, which is going to refuel his hand. But I feel like Albert's going to really start pulling away with this now. Cards in hand, better body on the board, more card draw. All the ink he needs to do stuff with. Yeah, I think it's probably in Albert's favor, but we'll see.
And he's going to bounce that rabbit back for another draw.
Yeah,
he's just, a minute ago, he only had 1 or 2 cards in hand, and now it looks like has a full hand.
Almost up to a full hand again. Just Amethyst doing Amethyst things with the bounce package and the card draw there. Yeah, and just able to, again, extend back out again with Minnie Mouse and Rafiki. Oh, wow. And so not so great some top decks here. Double Bucky. I mean, if we do see a Floodborn, it's going to start emptying out Albert's hand. But at this point, I think he's kind of safe just being able to start questing out a little bit here. Those bookies they're not challengers, they're just not there to challenge into stuff. So if that's all that's on the board, definitely going to be able to start gaining some lore here and really putting the pressure on. We see a rabbit come down, we see a castle come down.
Yeah,
just absolutely closing this out, I think. Yeah,
he's
in 4 lore to 14.
Really good shape. What do you think Alex is looking for here?
A miracle, I think, honestly. Unfortunately for Alex, I can't really think of too many lines here that are going to help. Again, we're not running Grab Your Sword, which isn't going to get rid of some stuff in a big way. Tragic Beast is a good card here to empty Albert's hand from 2 cards, but at the minute, 4, 5, 6, 7. We still have enough on the board. Albert still has 7 lore. The bookies are going to have to go into something. They're able to trade freely there with Rafiki because he only has his challenger. He has no strength unless he's challenging. But the 2 off there, and that's game. Yeah, it's enough. I think that goes to 20.
Wow, that was a
fantastic.
Yet,
but yeah, there we go.
Yes, that was a fantastic game. Both players doing what they do best. It was a really, really back and forth between both players on this one. Much more so, I feel like game 1 and game 2, one player was able to kind of pull ahead, but this one was really just a back and forth match.
Absolutely, yeah. I think, we're moving to the 2-game format for the Swiss rounds, which I think is a great way of getting more games in and splitting the points through the day. But when it comes down to it, that best of 3, just giving the both players that third chance to finish out a game and take a win, it makes really awesome games like that. That was really fantastic to watch. Both players played their hearts out. Both of them had answers when they needed them. But in the end, they just managed to pull through with Ruby Amethyst. One of the strongest decks since the beginning of the game, and still now
the beginning, and it's making its way to semifinals. So we're going to go to a break, and we will see you for some more games.